Hello, my name is Yudi. Today we'll be talking about menopause. Yes, menopause. That's one of the insults that every woman must go through. I'm 57. Still going through my bits. Today we have Professor Dakbo Ashiru, Professor of Anatomy and the Medical Director of Medical Arts Center, here to discuss menopause, tell us the insults and how it assaults us, and how you can still look good, age gracefully, and go through menopause with very little or no stress. Professor, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
I have been with you forever, and you have taken me through this journey of menopause. So, Prof, what is menopause?
Let me explain to you that, as an anatomist who has specialized in reproductive endocrinology, which is actually the hormones that control human reproduction, I have been faced with addressing menopausal problems over the years. And I've come to realize the fact that most women, when they get to that particular point that you refer to as menopause, they are in denial. What happens? The period has been coming regularly and regularly. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't come. It's delayed for an extra, week or two, and they wondered, could it be pregnancy? And they realized not really. And then it comes with a huge amount of bleeding. Then the next time, now the bleeding tapers off slowly and slowly. And that is menopause, from the Greek word end of menstruation. And it's been characterized by so many problems in the woman. Night sweats, hot flashes, anxiety, depression, sweaty hands, excess weight gain or weight loss, problems with sleeping, insomnia, arthritis, joint pains, and so many other factors.
I did say on the internet that there are 35 symptoms of menopause.
Absolutely.
And fear of death. I have a friend who is actually afraid she's going to die.
Absolutely. But the problem with menopause is, menopause in itself is a physiological process. The problem is not recognizing how to cope with menopause. And the main thing is that the hormones that are produced by the ovary, estrogen and progesterone, it's like we were made, and the female partner was made and programmed to finish its work or her work by the age of 45 or 50 and die. That seems to be what it is. Because when menopause sets in, rapidly the heart becomes aged, high blood pressure sets in, the adrenal gland becomes stressed because it will now take over the role of the ovary. And it is this adrenal stress that causes all these signs we talk about, and it leads to adrenal fatigue, and when unaddressed, it leads to adrenal failure and death. But even in the olden days, our old women, they recognized the fact, and they knew how to handle this by the use of some vegetables, by the use of some tuber like yam, because they contain progesterone. The two hormones from the ovary, estrogen and progesterone, are the hormones that begin to go down in menopause. Then the adrenal takes over and is only able to produce estrogen. which is able to metabolize from the food we eat, fat food, and make them with the fat in the body into estrogen. Now the problem with menopause is the unopposed action of estrogen. Estrogen alone going like that, and until it also declines. When it goes on itself, it can lead to breast cancer without the estrogen progesterone to balance it. When it goes on itself, it leads to a lot of problems like increased heart rate. And when it's now all shut down, it leads to fatigue, arthritis, and lack of memory, and all the menopausal signs. What we have recognized is that before, the medical world produced artificial estrogen to replace the estrogen that has gone down in menopause. And that was the undoing of women, because this estrogen had been produced artificially from horse urine, systemic synthetic estrogen. And this is the only thing that is given to women in form of estrogen replacement. Is actually the replacing estrogen, not hormone replacement therapy, only estrogen. And this replacement alone leads to breast cancer, uterine cancer, and in 1992, only in 1992, as recent as that, the women in America and Europe, they cried that they are killing them. They're giving them things to treat their menopause. But yet this substance is causing other factors in them, like cancer. So they started the so-called Women's Initiative that began to think of what else can you do to these women to make them cope with menopause. And that was how the most advanced laboratories came up with what we call the bioidentical hormone replacement. Not, and only very few centers understand this and know this. You'll be amazed that some centers are still giving this hormone replacement in form of estrogen. But the best centers, the most up-to-date centers, now give progesterone cream instead of estrogen, because the progesterone can be converted in part to estrogen and then remain as progesterone. So you have a balanced replacement in the body, as opposed to estrogen alone that is difficult to convert to progesterone. So that is the main entity. And we now recognize the fact that in menopause, women are no longer able to metabolize food as they used to. Consequently, the food stays in the intestine, which leads to things like fibroid.
Prof, we'll be right back. We'll be right back. And you mentioned fibroids. That's an interesting topic. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Aging Gracefully, a program that deals with all the insults of aging. Today our topic is menopause, and we have Professor Dakpo Ashiru, Professor of Anatomy and Medical Director of Medical Arts Center, and he deals with reproductive health. Am I right, Doctor?
Yes.
Yes, so you were talking about
the aging factors.
Yes, the aging factors and fibroids. Yes, you mentioned fibroids.
Fibroid.
Yes.
It can cause many other problems in the body, and they become, the cartilage in the body, in the skin, will break down, and wrinkles will set up. And then they are depressed when they look at themselves in the mirror. They see this weight, and they don't know what to do. And they believe that they're not eating as much as they used to eat before. Now, warning signal. Then they think that they want to diet. And what are they eating? I see a number of patients that come to my center and they said, oh, I don't know why I have all this weight. And I would only take fruits in the morning and then fruits in the afternoon as well as fruits in the evening. And then maybe a small amount of chicken or meat. And I tell them that is the poison. That entirely is the poison. We were made to think, as I said in my introduction before, that it is the industry that is driving the food presentation. The hallmark of eating is that you eat vegetables to the size of your palm and protein to half that size and carbohydrate just about this size. And in some people, you have to cut down carbohydrate into a quarter of that so that your body can become regenerated. And in some people, the type of carbohydrate that must be taken cannot be rice. It cannot be like sweet things. And orange juice, it can only be things like potatoes or yam, because those ones are long chain food. And the bacteria in the body, they do not have the enzyme to digest long chain. So they will starve when you introduce such food into the body. And
that is what food? Yam and potato?
Yes, yam and potato.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas the food like simple starch, like sugar and fructose and glucose, those ones are easily metabolized by the bacteria. So they multiply very rapidly and cover the whole of the intestine and make it inefficient. So you get weak, you get tired, you lose your memory, you can't sleep. And when you don't do all those things, the aging process will go faster than you imagine. Whereas when you sit back and now begin to introduce those supplements in a cleaner intestine, then the body gets back to its normal process. Then the heart gets into its normal process. And the bioidentical hormones will now function normally. You have things that can now support the adrenal and the brain, like the pituitary and the hypothalamus, which are the aging organs that occur with menopause.
Prof, that's menopause kicking in. Wanted to ask you a question, I suddenly forgot. Prof, at what points when would one say is the normal age where menopause appears? I know that your period must have been a cessation of menses for about a year before you can successfully say you've arrived at menopause. What is the age? I'm not talking about people who have accidentally or prematurely arrived at menopause because of one medical condition or the other. I'm now talking about what is the normal age at which somebody, I got to my period stopped at age 56, that's last year. And how long also, my second question is, how long will one have to endure the indignities of menopause? Does it stop, or is something that you have to carry on through your entire life?
See, what we have now recognized is that a female baby in utero, inside the uterus, the womb, has millions of eggs in it. By the time the baby is born, the number of eggs in her has reduced significantly. That is aging. And when the baby is now born, the number of eggs in her are countable. And she's going to produce about 500 eggs altogether. And if you imagine you produce 12 eggs every year, 1 egg per month, and you produce 12 in a year, And for this 12 to be recruited, many will have to support it. So you find out that when that woman starts to menstruate, either at the age of 12 or 10, you are looking at, she will now have about 30 years or 35 to produce eggs every year. Because if you say that there are 10 eggs per year, in 30 years, 300 eggs are used. Okay? Out of 500. So the others are going to be used to support it. Consequently, by the age of 45, most of the eggs are exhausted. And by the age of 50, you only have very few eggs left. So what do we do in reproductive medicine is that if we now subject that patient to some therapy, the new one is called the hypoxicator. It reduces the woman to a high tension oxygen, like they are at below sea level. At that level, all the cells of the ovary, they will multiply. Okay? Then it takes it to a very low tension at about 13%, when atmospheric air is just 20%. It takes it way below that, like on Mount Everest. At that point, all the bad cells or aging cells will die off. And by the time it comes back to a higher percentage, only the good cells will survive. This way, if she does that constantly, you find out that all the aging cells are replaced by new ones. And we've ended up having what we call Maya babies, babies who went through detox, or women who went through detox and became pregnant accidentally because of the regeneration process of the mitochondria of the ovary, which is the energy house of the ovary. When you age, those mitochondria, they age, and they can't process food and energy for the cells to survive normally. So the cells die off, or they are weak and they are lazy. And the same thing occurs to the collagen on the face, because the nutrients are not there to support it, so it starts to crack and break down. So if you're able to replenish it with food, with good nutrients, the substance of the cell can now expand to form a normal cell instead of a flat cell. So there'll be more vitality restored to the body.
Prof, if somebody doesn't have money to do all these things, what are the simplest thing that somebody who doesn't have that kind of money, and says, I want to look good. I don't want this menopause thing which I have to go through, which I know is a process, to weigh me down. So what exactly, in my own little way, inexpensively?
The best way to do this
is to eat yam?
Is to control your diet.
Okay.
Eat very small amount of carbohydrate, because the body has aged and cannot produce it and cannot manage it. When you eat small amount of carbohydrate, then the aging pancreatic cells, now they're not, if they used to deal with, let me put a figure, like 1,000 milligrams of glucose in your body every day, if you are subjecting them to about 100 to 200 milligrams of glucose, and they are not coping, they are failing. Now if you reduce it and give them like 50 milligrams of glucose, or they will say, well, this is easier to handle, they will break that down, and they have enough energy to regenerate themselves. So when you subject your body to low amount of carbohydrate you used to give it, you are giving your body some regeneration process. And what should this be? Like I said, simple carbohydrate, beans, yam, vegetables, not the raw one, but the steamed one. It should not be overcooked as to lose all the ingredients in it, but it should be simply steamed or stir-fried with good oil, not vegetable oil, with olive oil or coconut oil, just for a short period, and then it's better.
We'll be right back, Prof. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. You're welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Aging Gracefully, and Professor Ashiru, a professor of anatomy and the medical director of Medical Arts Center and doctor of reproductive health, has been taking us through menopause, taking us through what we can do and what we should do to enable us weather this insult of aging that we are so helpless and cannot do anything about, but a process that we must go through. Prof has been talking to us on how to deal with this indignity and still look good as we go through the process. Prof, thank you. So, having to go through this, most women lose appetite for sex. What would you say to a man who, between himself and the wife is battling with menopause and the husband is battling with andropause? Bad combination. What would you say to them?
Good. Like you said, for those who do not have that level of income to handle it, number one, eat simple food, like what we call organic food grown from the garden, freshly prepared food, carbohydrates in form of yam and potatoes, very little amount of rice, if at all, maybe once in a week.
How about brown rice?
The same thing, but it should be very little. Then take protein, because you need that at that point. And you need it in moderate amount in form of fish or chicken. And you remove completely from your meal the head of the fish, because it has a lot of toxins in it that will also affect your
That's a specialty that most people will kill for.
Yes, it has all the toxins in the body. The same as all these organ parts of the body, they have toxins. Like the intestine, the so-called
roundabout,
shaki,
yes, or more roundabout.
They contain a lot of the
That's
toxins.
an abomination.
Yes.
I can hear somebody say that. That's an abomination. Because
it has no nutritional value in them. There's none. The only nutritional value in this animal or substance is the flesh, the muscle. Those are the nutritional value, because they've taken that from the green through sun energy into those parts. There's no sun energy in the intestine. It's just to process that organ and leave. They should eat that. They should take some essential vitamins. And they also need, very importantly, oil, the omega-3 oil, which is not readily available. It's only available in something like linseed oil and hemp oil. The omega-6 oil and the omega-9, like in some of these are found in fish oil or in flaxseed oil. And then you can take
vitamin E.
Also, you can do the vitamin E, but in small amount, because when you take it in high amount, it can convert and form estrogen. So the body again becomes estrogenic, which you don't want. And making sure all the time that your body is alkaline. You are not taking too much of the acidic food. Last but not the least, so when you do your food and you mix it together, you take your dish. It's got fish. It's got shaki. It's got stockfish. It's got multiple protein in it. Different parts of protein. The cow leg, this and that. The body is only going to take one of them and process it. And in fact, when you mix it with carbohydrates, the body is only going to take the carbohydrates and digest it. Because to digest meat, to digest chicken or fish, the stomach must be acidic. Whereas to digest the carbohydrate, the stomach must be alkaline. So when you put the two together, the stomach is just going to take one of them and mobilize those enzymes and digest it. So even though you think you're eating a lot of big food, you're actually not nourishing the body 100%. And last but not the least, is that too much food leads to maldigestion, leads to the so-called fermentation and decay. That is a problem. When you notice our old people in those days, they don't eat so much food. And in the evening, the amount of food consumption is very minimal. They limit it to maybe liquid food like the pap or things like that that can be easily digested. Fluid food as opposed to solid food like pounded yam or eba, which is not going to be used by the body. I tell you one thing, the Chinese recognize this way back, that by 9 p.m. the intestine is sleeping. So
intestine is sleeping?
Yes. So any food you introduce to the intestine after 9 o'clock is just on your own. You're on your own. It's not going to use it. It's going to just process maybe a little bit of it, and the rest are going to be pushed into the intestine. To do what? To become pot belly of toxins that will now poison the body. It's been described as intestinal intoxication by ourselves. That is the truth.
Prof, thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll still come back to you from time to time to come and talk to us about some of these consequences of ignoring some of these early signs of menopause. If you ignore them and you're not doing anything at all, what the resulting effects and what that could do to your remaining years on earth. Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers. And I believe for most women who are going through menopause, this has been very informative and educative. I actually had a friend who treated herself for 8 years for typhoid, not knowing that she was going through menopausal symptoms. And once you know that there's something actually called menopause, and you get to know the symptoms, when they come with what Professor has said, to be easier for you to deal with these symptoms and know what to do so that you can have your 8 to 10 hours sleep and look good by fighting all this aging process, fighting all the insults all the way, and aging gracefully.
One patient treated herself for depression at the psychiatric hospital.
One of them
was put on antidepressant.
A menopausal symptom.
Rather than just being given the bioidentical hormones. When we did that, she stopped the antidepressants and she became okay up to now.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's help out there. There's a lot of help out there. So you don't have to suffer those indignities in silence. Today, nobody hides all those things. Once you seek for help, you'll find it. And that will help you fight it all the way and age gracefully. Until I come your way another time, my name is Yudi, and God bless you.